Glass empires, Harrison Reed adjusted his Italian silk tie as he gazed out from his corner office across the Seattle skyline. The morning light reflected off the glass facades of 3 buildings he owned outright, each structure a testament to his relentless ambition. "Mr. Reed, your wife is on line 1, his assistant Penelope announced through the intercom. Harrison's jaw tightened momentarily before relaxing into practiced charm. "Thank you, Pen." He picked up the phone. "Olivia, darling." "What a surprise." "Just confirming our dinner with the Wilsons tonight." Olivia Reed's voice carried the refined warmth that had made her the perfect hostess at countless business functions. "Should I wear the emeralds you gave me for our anniversary?" "Absolutely. Julian's wife appreciates fine things. It'll help seal the deal." Harrison glanced at his watch. "Listen, I've got that meeting with the zoning commission. I'll be home by 7. The line clicked dead as Harrison immediately dialed another number. "Diana, it's me. Can you meet at the usual place? I've got something special to show you." 2 hours later, Harrison sat in a private booth at Lumini, an exclusive restaurant in a boutique hotel he'd acquired last year. Diana Chen walked in, her architectural portfolio under her arm, dark hair cascading over her shoulders. At 32, she was 15 years younger than Harrison and possessed both the creative vision and ambition that had first attracted him. "I brought the revised plans for the waterfront project," Diana said, sliding into the booth. Harrison smiled, reaching across to touch her hand. "Always the professional. But that's not why I asked you here." He pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a platinum key pendant studded with diamonds. "What's this?" Diana's eyes widened. "The key to our future," Harrison said smoothly. "I've purchased a condo in Vancouver, for us. I'm filing the divorce papers next month." Diana's expression softened. "You mean it this time?" "Absolutely," Harrison lied effortlessly. "Olivia and I have been over for years." She's just been in denial. In truth, Harrison had no intention of leaving Olivia. His wife's family connections had helped secure his position with Seattle's elite. Besides, Diana served a different purpose. Her innovative designs had given Reed Enterprises an edge over competitors, all while keeping her name off the recognition she deserved. That evening, Harrison arrived home precisely at 7. Their lakeside mansion, showcasing Olivia's impeccable taste in modern design, was already prepared for dinner guests. "The Wilsons will be here in 30 minutes, Olivia said, fastening the emerald necklace that complemented her forest green dress. Harrison kissed her cheek. "You look perfect." At 45, Olivia Reed remained elegantly beautiful. The daughter of a federal judge, she'd given up her own promising legal career to support Harrison's ambitions. For 17 years, she'd played her role flawlessly, the sophisticated wife who charmed investors and politicians alike. What Harrison didn't know was that beneath Olivia's composed exterior, suspicion had been growing. The mysterious calls, the late meetings, the business trips that never quite added up. The emerald necklace, which he'd clearly forgotten he'd given her, had been a guilt offering after one such trip. During dinner, Harrison regaled the Wilsons with stories of his latest development project. "It's revolutionary, a sustainable urban community with innovative design elements no one in this market has attempted." Olivia watched her husband's animated gestures. Recognizing Diana Chen's design concepts that Harrison had enthusiastically described to her months ago, ideas he was now claiming as his own. Later that night, as Harrison slept, Olivia silently opened his home office safe. Inside, alongside financial documents, she found a velvet box containing a platinum key pendant. The attached note read, "To our new beginning." Olivia carefully replaced everything, her mind finally settling on what she had suspected for years. The empire they'd built together was constructed on a foundation of glass, beautiful, transparent, and dangerously fragile. Shattered reflections, Diana stared at her laptop screen, the Vancouver property listing still open as tears blurred her vision. 3 days after Harrison had given her the key pendant, she'd decided to visit the condo herself, a surprise inspection of their future home. Except the building's concierge had no record of a Reed Enterprises purchase. Curious, she'd searched property records online and discovered the truth. No such transaction existed. 6 years, she whispered to her empty apartment. 6 years of promises. The revelation had sent her spiraling through their relationship, questioning every moment. Diana opened her portfolio and flipped through designs that had won Harrison accolades, innovative concepts she'd created but never received credit for. Her phone buzzed with Harrison's name. She declined the call, something she'd never done before. Instead, Diana opened her browser and typed Harrison Reed wife. Dozens of society photos appeared, Harrison and Olivia Reed at charity galas, museum openings, political fundraisers. In every image, the elegant Olivia wore a practiced smile that Diana now recognized mirrored her own public expressions when accompanying Harrison to business dinners. What caught Diana's attention, however, was a photo from 3 months ago, Harrison and Olivia breaking ground on the Lakeside Terraces project. Around Olivia's neck hung the exact emerald necklace Harrison had claimed was one of a kind, designed specially for Diana's birthday last year. Meanwhile, across the city, Olivia sat in the office of Patricia Whitmore, her former law school roommate, and now one of Seattle's most formidable divorce attorneys. 17 years. Patty, Olivia said, sliding a folder across the desk. Bank statements, property records, and photographs. He's been transferring company assets to offshore accounts and private holdings since 2019. Patricia leafed through the documents. You've been thorough. I was raised by Judge Thomas Reynolds. Documentation was dinner table conversation. Olivia's smile held no warmth. What I need to know is, can we prove he's been using company funds to finance his affair while denying me proper equity as co-founder of Reed Enterprises? Patricia looked up sharply. Co-founder, your name isn't on any of the incorporation documents. Check the original business loan from 2006, Olivia replied. My trust fund secured it, and I have the original business plans, in my handwriting, from when we launched. She paused. Harrison needed my family's connections to get started. He spent 17 years erasing my contributions. Across town, Harrison paced his office, increasingly frustrated by Diana's silence. He'd built his life on careful compartmentalization, Olivia for social standing and business stability, Diana for creative inspiration and passion. The arrangement had worked perfectly for years. His intercom buzzed. Mr. Reed, there's a Mr. Farrow from the Seattle Business Journal asking about your statement regarding Diana Chen's claims on the waterfront project designs. Harrison froze. What claims? He says Ms. Chen has submitted evidence that the award-winning sustainable elements were her original concepts. He's asking for comment before running the story tomorrow. Harrison's carefully constructed world began cracking. He immediately called Nathaniel Weiss, his business partner of 12 years. Nate, we have a situation. Diana's gone rogue. We need to implement damage control. The line remained silent for several moments. Harrison, Nathaniel finally said, I've just received an interesting email from Olivia with some very detailed financial records. Harrison's blood ran cold. Whatever she sent you, is this why you've been blocking the board's audit requests? Have you been embezzling from our investors? Don't be dramatic, Harrison snapped. It's standard asset protection. Everyone does it. Not with my signature forged on transfer authorizations, Nathaniel replied coolly. Harrison ended the call and slumped into his chair. His phone buzzed with a text from Olivia, coming home early to pack some things. We need to talk. By nightfall, both women had taken their first steps toward dismantling Harrison Reed's empire. Diana had submitted her portfolio, complete with dated original sketches and documentation, to the Architectural Review Board that had granted Harrison's firm its prestigious Innovation Award. Olivia had quietly transferred their personal assets into protected accounts and contacted their most significant investors. When Harrison arrived home, expecting to charm his way through another marital misunderstanding, he found Olivia calmly placing framed photographs into a box. Let me explain, he began, his practiced smile faltering when Olivia held up her hand. Save it for court, Harrison, she said, her voice steady as she removed her emerald necklace and placed it on the table. I've already spoken with Diana Chen. Strategic alliances, The Westlake Cafe bustled with morning commuters, but in a corner booth, two women sat in tense silence. Olivia Reed, in a tailored charcoal pantsuit, stirred her untouched tea, while Diana Chen clutched her coffee mug like a shield. "Thank you for coming," Olivia finally said. "I wasn't sure you would." Diana studied the woman she'd unknowingly competed with for years. "Honestly, I'm still processing that you reached out. How did you even get my number? Harrison isn't as careful with his second phone as he thinks." Olivia's smile held no humor. "Though I suspect after yesterday, he's realizing many of his secrets weren't actually secret." The prior day's Seattle Business Journal headline had sent shockwaves through the architectural community. Award-winning Reed Designs, the uncredited. Architect behind the empire. The article detailed Diana's substantial portfolio of work that Harrison had claimed as his company's innovations. "I didn't know about you," Diana said quietly. "Not until the Vancouver property lie made me look deeper." "And I suspected but didn't confirm until recently," Olivia admitted. Classic Harrison, compartmentalizing his life into convenient boxes. She reached into her briefcase and produced a leather portfolio. But what he never realized is that his boxes had windows, and I've been looking through them for years. Inside were meticulous records, financial transfers, property holdings, corporate structures, and most damning, evidence of systematic intellectual property theft spanning a decade. "You weren't his first," Olivia explained, showing Diana photographs of young designers whose concepts had appeared in Reed Enterprises projects. "Just his longest running. He finds talented people, promises them everything, uses their ideas, then discards them when they demand recognition." Diana's expression hardened. "So why are we here? Comparing notes on how thoroughly we've been manipulated? Because separately we each have pieces of the puzzle. Together, we have the complete picture." Olivia leaned forward. "I don't want revenge, Ms. Chen. I want justice, for both of us and for everyone he's exploited." Across town, Harrison Reed's office had become a war room. His legal team worked frantically as he berated them about confidentiality agreements. "Ms. Chen signed an NDA when she began consulting," insisted Veronica Hale, his lead attorney. "But the language is problematic. It prevents her from claiming ownership of work produced for Reed Enterprises, but not from proving she created designs you later claimed were yours personally." Harrison slammed his fist on the desk. "Fix this! That's what I pay you for." "There's another issue," interjected Marcus Peters, his financial advisor. "The SEC has opened an inquiry into certain offshore transactions, and 3 of your largest investors have requested emergency meetings," the intercom buzzed. "Mr. Reed? Nathaniel Weiss and the board members are here." Harrison straightened his tie, composure returning like a mask. "Send them in." Nathaniel entered first, followed by 5 grim-faced board members. "Harrison," he said formally, "in light of serious allegations regarding financial impropriety and intellectual property theft, the board has called an emergency session." "This is absurd," Harrison scoffed. "My wife is angry about personal matters and making wild accusations, and Diana Chen is an employee trying to claim credit beyond her contribution." "Former employee," corrected Janelle Morrison, the board's most senior member. "And she's not the only one. We've received statements from 4 other designers with similar claims." Harrison's confident facade cracked slightly. "This is a coordinated attack on my reputation." "This is accountability," Nathaniel interrupted, placing a document on the desk. "Effective immediately, you are suspended pending investigation. All company assets are frozen." Meanwhile, in a downtown law office, Olivia and Diana sat with Patricia Whitmore and Theodore Banham, a renowned intellectual property attorney. "The class action approach is our strongest play," Theodore explained, displaying a whiteboard filled with names. 8 former designers have already joined after seeing Ms. Chen come forward. With Ms. Reed's financial evidence showing how their stolen work directly benefited Mr. Reed personally rather than the company, Patricia continued, "we can separate Harrison from Reed Enterprises, making him personally liable while potentially saving the company from complete collapse." Diana looked troubled. "What about the current projects?" "There are good people who depend on those jobs." "That's where I come in," said a new voice as Nathaniel Weiss entered the conference room. "Reed Enterprises can survive this, but only with complete transparency and proper attribution." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Nathaniel, I wasn't sure you'd choose the right side." "Let's be clear. I'm choosing the legal side," he replied. "But I've brought something that might help your case." He placed a flash drive on the table. Harrison kept a private record of inspirations, essentially a trophy collection of ideas he planned to claim. "It's time-stamped and includes all of your work, Ms. Chen, plus others." As they reviewed the damning evidence, Olivia turned to Diana. "He never expected us to work together. That's his weakness. He can't imagine the people he underestimates becoming his undoing." The testimony, the King County Courthouse hummed with anticipation as journalists and spectators filled the gallery. What had begun as a divorce proceeding had evolved into a complex case combining allegations of fraud, intellectual property theft, and breach of fiduciary duty. Judge Eleanor Kimball, known for her no-nonsense approach, surveyed the packed courtroom with practiced neutrality. Harrison Reed sat beside his legal team, immaculately dressed in a conservative navy suit, projecting calm confidence despite the storm surrounding him. Across the aisle, Olivia and Diana sat with their respective attorneys, united by a shared purpose that transcended their complicated connection. "The court calls Olivia Reed to the stand," announced the bailiff. Olivia approached steadily, took her oath, and settled into the witness chair. For 17 years, she had stood in Harrison's shadow. Today, she stepped into the light. "Mrs. Reed," began Patricia Whitmore, "please describe your role in the founding of Reed Enterprises." "Objection," interrupted Harrison's attorney. "Mrs. Reed has no formal position with the company." Judge Kimball peered over her glasses. "I'll allow the witness to answer." Olivia squared her shoulders. "Reed Enterprises began in our garage in 2006. Harrison had the architectural background, but I had the business plan, the initial capital from my trust fund, and the connections through my father that secured our first 3 major projects." She methodically outlined how Harrison had systematically removed her from company documents, redirected her equity, and eventually relegated her to the role of supportive spouse while building an empire on their joint foundation. "And when did you first suspect financial impropriety?" 4 years ago, I noticed discrepancies in our personal accounts. Transfers to shell companies I didn't recognize. Properties purchased under subsidiary names." Olivia indicated the exhibits displayed on screens around the courtroom. "I began documenting everything." Harrison's expression remained impassive, but his leg bounced nervously under the table. During cross-examination, Harrison's attorney adopted a sympathetic tone. "Mrs. Reed, isn't it possible these allegations stem from your discovery of your husband's relationship with Ms. Chen? A wife scorned, seeking revenge?" Olivia's gaze remained steady. "I suspected Harrison's infidelity for years. That's a personal betrayal. This case is about professional and legal betrayals that harmed dozens of people, including talented designers whose careers he stunted, investors whose trust he violated, and partners whose signatures he forged." After a brief recess, Diana took the stand. She walked through her relationship with Harrison chronologically, presenting original sketches alongside Reed Enterprises' published designs. The evidence was damning. Innovative elements Harrison had won awards for were clearly Diana's work, created months before Reed claimed to have developed them. "Ms. Chen," asked Theodore Banham, "did Mr. Reed ever acknowledge your contributions to these designs?" "Privately, yes. He called me his secret weapon. Publicly, never." Diana's voice wavered slightly. "He told me industry recognition would come after we were together officially, that revealing our relationship would undermine my credibility." I believed him. Harrison's attorney attempted to paint Diana as complicit. "You continued this relationship for 6 years while accepting compensation. Didn't that arrangement benefit you professionally?" Diana didn't flinch. "I was paid significantly below market rate with promises of equity that never materialized. Meanwhile, Mr. Reed received international recognition and millions in contracts based on my innovations." She paused. "I accept my responsibility for not standing up sooner. That's why I'm here now." The courtroom fell silent as Nathaniel Weiss took the stand. As Harrison's longtime business partner, his testimony carried particular weight. "Mr. Weiss," asked the prosecutor, "when did you become aware of financial irregularities at Reed Enterprises?" "I had concerns for approximately 2 years," Nathaniel admitted. But Harrison always had plausible explanations. "It wasn't until I received documented evidence from Mrs. Reed that I realized the extent of the deception." "And the intellectual property claims?" "I discovered this flash drive in Harrison's private office safe during the board-mandated audit." Nathaniel described the contents, a detailed catalog of acquired inspirations Harrison had collected over 12 years, complete with designer names, dates, and callous notes about how to claim ownership. As damning evidence mounted, Harrison's composed facade crumbled. During a tense exchange with Judge Kimball, he finally snapped, "These people would be nothing without me," he shouted, rising from his chair. "I built their careers. I gave them opportunities. Their ideas were worthless until I made them valuable." The outburst hung in the stunned courtroom. Judge Kimball's gavel cracked sharply. "Mr. Reed, control yourself or be held in contempt." In that moment of unguarded fury, Harrison had revealed his true perspective, that using people was his right, that their talents were commodities he could rightfully claim. The most powerful testimony, however, came from a surprise witness. Penelope Morris, Harrison's longtime assistant, approached the stand nervously but with determination. "For 9 years, I maintained Mr. Reed's schedule, communications and records," she explained, including separate calendars for Mrs. Reed and Ms. Chen, designed to ensure they never crossed paths. She described Harrison's methodical approach to intellectual property theft, having her remove designer names from drafts, backdating his revisions, and maintaining a database of promising talent to cultivate. "Did Mr. Reed ever express concern about these practices?" asked the prosecutor. Penelope hesitated, then looked directly at Harrison. "He said, and I quote, 'Everyone uses other people's ideas. The difference is, I'm smart enough not to get caught.'" As the hearing concluded its 4th day, Judge Kimball addressed the courtroom. "I've seen sufficient evidence to move forward with both civil and criminal proceedings. This court will refer specific matters to the appropriate federal authorities regarding securities fraud." Harrison, his empire crumbling around him, finally understood that his greatest miscalculation had been underestimating the women he'd tried to control. Reclamation. 18 months after the courthouse revelations, Diana Chen stood at a podium accepting the Pritzker Architecture Prize, the field's highest honor. The audience rose in standing ovation as she surveyed the journey that had brought her to this moment. "Architecture is fundamentally about creating spaces where people can thrive with dignity," she began. "For too long, I allowed my own space to be diminished, my dignity compromised, in service to someone else's vision." The Reed scandal had ultimately freed her. After the trial, the board of Reed Enterprises, reorganized as Horizon Design Group, had approached her to lead their sustainability division with full creative control and proper attribution for her past work. Instead, Diana had chosen a different path, establishing Chen Innovative Design with a core principle of collaborative credit and transparent recognition for all contributors. "Today, I accept this not as an individual achievement, but as recognition of our studio's commitment to ethical design practices," she continued. "Our team of 26 architects represents some of the industry's most overlooked talents, many of whom were previously denied proper credit for their innovations. Among those talents were 7 former Reed Enterprises designers who had joined Diana's class action suit. Together, they had transformed their painful experiences into a revolutionary design collective that now led the industry in both sustainable architecture and ethical business practices. In the audience, Olivia Reed applauded warmly. The 17-month trial process had resulted in Harrison receiving a 7-year sentence for securities fraud, with additional penalties for intellectual property theft. Reed Enterprises had been restructured, with Nathaniel Weiss leading a transparent transformation, while Olivia had reclaimed her rightful equity. Rather than remain with the company, however, Olivia had chosen to return to her original passion, At 47, she had re-entered law school and now specialized in intellectual property protection for creative professionals. Her experience navigating Harrison's deceptions had given her unique insight into how vulnerable creative workers were to exploitation. After Diana's acceptance speech, the two women met at the gala reception. Their former connection through Harrison now transformed into a genuine friendship forged through shared resilience. "Congratulations, Diana," Olivia said, embracing her. "Your parents would have been so proud." Diana smiled, thinking of the immigrant parents whose sacrifices had enabled her education. "Sometimes I wonder if all this would have happened if we hadn't compared notes that day at Westlake Cafe." Harrison always underestimated what he called the soft skills. Empathy, collaboration, emotional intelligence, Olivia mused. He never understood that connection creates strength. Across the city, in a minimum security federal facility, Harrison Reed watched the Architecture Prize ceremony on a small television in the common room. His fellow inmates had little interest in the event, but Harrison couldn't look away as Diana accepted the award he had once been certain would be his. The financial penalties had stripped him of nearly everything. The professional sanctions had barred him from the industry for life. But the loss that haunted him most was the recognition that his true talent had never been design or business. It had been identifying and exploiting exceptional people whose gifts exceeded his own. Later that evening, Diana hosted an intimate dinner at her renovated warehouse loft, a space filled with light, sustainable materials, and collaborative work areas. Around the table sat her core team, along with Olivia and her new partner, a literature professor with a passionate interest in architectural history. "To reclamation," Diana toasted, raising her glass. "Not just of our work, but of our narratives," Olivia added. "And to building something more valuable than any empire. Authentic connections based on respect." As conversation flowed around creative challenges and future projects, both women recognized the truth they had discovered through their ordeal. Real power wasn't found in controlling others, but in creating spaces, both physical and emotional, where genuine collaboration could flourish. In their separate ways, both had reclaimed not just what Harrison had taken from them, but discovered strength they hadn't known they possessed. Their paths, once manipulated to never intersect, now formed a powerful intersection of purpose that would influence their industries for years to come. The empire Harrison had built through deception had fallen. In its place grew something far more enduring, a legacy of creativity, integrity, and the unstoppable force of underestimated women reclaiming their power.